Thank you very much for coming today, everybody. I don't want to get into my personal life over the last year because there's 2 articles about it in the last 2 issues of the Digest that go through it. But I'll just say that I suffered through cancer and have dealt with it, and I have a clean bill of health now. Thanks very much. Fortunately, have sort of recovered just in time to start partaking in the court case, so I've been very happy that it's been postponed as long as it has. For those to get caught up, our bakery got raided and busted in February, I forget what, 2009?
No, December 2009.
Oh, December 2, sorry. In December 2009, it was a call for actually another apartment, but our baker had the radio. He's a DJ too, and he'll be playing tonight, I hope, at the party Ted will be telling you about later. And I had the music up a little bit too loud, so that's where the police went to first. And when he opened the door, they saw a little bud on the speaker, so then they came and then they found the bakery, the cookies and all that, and search warrant was gotten and all the rest of that. So it's been 2.5 years waiting to go to court, and it's been a very interesting trial. I'm going to just hit the sort of the highlights because I'm blogging on our forums. I'm a little bit behind because I've been sick with the last couple of weeks, but I'm going to try really hard to get caught up this week because we go back in on the 27th for 4 days of our closing arguments, and I want to try to have all the testimonies on the blog caught up by then. So thanks for your patience with me not keeping up the way I should, which is the way I live my life. I'm just glad that I'm able to be here today. It's been probably 7 years since I spoke at a convention. The last one I spoke at was in 2004, I think, at Camosun College. So I'd like to just get started. The first day of testimony was the police expert witness, and he was actually it was a very short testimony, and he did a very good job, I thought, of describing the products that were seized as being a oily substance. What was seized was all of our butters and massage oils out of the fridge, and the Crown, they just test for the presence of the substance when they test. They don't test for the quantity. So they found THC in the oils and didn't bother to test for how much, so they think they have jars full of hash oil, and which is not oily at all and would stick the bag to the jar if it leaked and not soak the bag and break like the police officer testified. So the judge seems to be pretty aware and paying attention, so I don't think he's been fooled by that at all. The next 2 3/4 days of testimony were Ted, so I had to sit in the hallway. And about the only thing that I could observe was everybody's reactions as they came out of the courtroom, and it was really interesting. Everybody seemed to come out smiling. And the first day, actually, there was only 2 comments made by everybody, and that was, wow, the judge is really paying attention. And the judge seems to be a very good judge. And so going on that, I felt good the first 2 days with what Ted had to say. We weren't allowed to talk a lot, and that was really, that was bizarre. For 2 nights, 3 nights at home, we were I've never heard us so silent. We had to watch movies. We had nothing to talk about because all we wanted to talk about was the court case. So that was pretty funny. And then I testified, and the judge indeed was I testified for a whole day. I wished I expanded a little bit more, but the prosecutor was very sick, and so I was a little bit briefer than I wanted, and I didn't really fully understand that the judge was actually listening and accepting life experience. So I kind of sold myself short a little bit there, but we may have the opportunity, depending on his decision, we may have to do it all over again because it may be going to a jury trial. So it's going to be still be an intense couple of months because like I said, we have still 4 days of closing arguments, and then the judge will probably take 6 to 8 weeks, I would think, to write his decision. So it's still going to be a long wait to see what's going on. So I just told about my life history, which is way too long to get into, and and I really want to hear Blake and Dana talk, so I'm going to be a little bit short probably, so give them some extra time. A lot of, like I said earlier too, a lot of my shortest history you can read about in the last 2 issues of the digest, but I explained to the judge that I started using cannabis at a very early age. I was 13 years old when one of my older sisters introduced it to me, and it was apparent to me within months that this was a plant that I needed and I wasn't going to be able to live without, because right from my very first period I had extremely heavy bleeding and extremely severe cramps. I would be doubled over for the first 3 days of my period every month. If I was lucky, it would only be once a month because they were extremely irregular as well. And cannabis stopped the nausea associated with the heavy bleeding, and it stopped the cramps, so I was actually able to go to school and partake in school normally. And then there's just been a lifelong history of other things. Like I said, I'm not going to bother getting into it, it's too boring. So the next day, Gina was on the stand, and she suffered an injury at work. She fell off of a landing in a factory, what do they call them, a lion factory. She fell off of a stand and hit her back onto a steel rail, and has suffered through 8 years of extreme pharmaceutical addiction. They've kept putting her on stronger and stronger Oxycontins and all that sort of thing until she was basically doing, she told the judge, pharmaceutical heroin. And she was, they just kept upping her dose. It wasn't helping her relieve her pain at all. And she told the judge she basically lost 8 years of her life and didn't know her children. Her husband found work out here. She was in Ontario, so they moved out here. And she's very lucky that she has such a supportive husband. He sought out a doctor before they moved here that was cannabis friendly and talked her into told the doctor that they wanted to wean her off of the pharmaceutical drugs and that she wanted to start using cannabis. And when she moved out here, she found the club and did do so with the help of her new physician. And she has a quality of life again, and she gets to play with her grandchildren, and it's just amazing. The first day that I met Gina, I didn't think, in the store, I didn't think she was going to make it back out to the front door and to her car. I asked her if she needed help. She was so debilitated she could hardly walk, and she could hardly talk either because her brain had just been so scrambled. So, Sandra was next, and she was these are all very close friends to me. So Sandra was next, and she was a nurse. At the time, she had a motorcycle accident. Another car ran into their motorcycle, and she was basically bent into a pretzel. Her left leg was wrapped around behind her head, and she basically fractured the whole left side of her body. And she's been in tremendous pain ever since, and went through the pharmaceutical route. She never smoked cannabis before, because she, being a nurse. So it was only after years of trying pharmaceuticals that didn't work that she finally started. Her brother talked her into smoking some cannabis, and she found that it helped right away. And then she came down to the club, and we'd been friends years earlier, so she already knew me and trusted me, and I talked her into eating some cookies. And she couldn't believe the help that she got from the cookies. She has epilepsy, so she takes the Rhinol regularly to help stop her seizures and keep them under control. She has quite a host of other things, but I'll be writing more about it in the blog, like I said. And Ruth was the last one. She's a young mother of 2, and she was in a 6-car pile-up. She was broadsided by somebody who ran a red light, and it ended up involving 4 other cars. And she has severe head trauma and neck and back problems, and she can't live a day without eating her cannabis either, because the first thing, again, she was put on pharmaceuticals, and they left her so debilitated that she couldn't look after her children. So she's found eating cannabis very important, and that's the whole basis of our arguments in court, is because the bakery got raided. It's been very frustrating listening to the testimonies of the expert witnesses, because they contradict themselves so much. They'll try to say that there's no benefits from eating it because your body destroys most of it. Your liver destroys most of it when you ingest it, but it just goes to show proves to me what a minute amount we need for it to be effective. It just astonishes me all the time. So the next testimony was our expert witness, which was Dr. Pate. We brought him from California, and he's a very amazing man. He worked for 10 years with the pharmaceutical company in Scandinavia, and helped develop the 2 strains that Sativex uses that GW Pharmaceuticals uses to produce Sativex with. And they used 2 strains. He bred 2 separate strains because of the acknowledgement that THC is a very good painkiller, but CBDs and CBNs and things like that are smooth muscle relaxers. They help stop nausea. They counteract the psychoactive effects of THC, so they reduce anxieties and things like that. And they help with epilepsies, things of nervous disorders. And it's really important. He also described how important it was to ingest cannabis, because when you smoke it, it lasts at such a shorter duration in your system. You're decarboxylizing instantly as you're smoking a joint, and so all the conversions are happening, but it's happening at such a high heat that once it enters your bloodstream, we use it rapidly, and then it starts to deteriorate rapidly. So if you're in chronic severe pain, you're having to smoke a joint every hour, every half an hour, because the effects are starting to wear off. Whereas if you eat a cookie, it's gonna last you